Imagine this. A brand new Boeing 737 MAX, a sleek $150 million jet, rolls off the assembly line, polished and ready to fly. Its destination? China. But instead of landing at a Chinese airport for delivery, it's forced to turn around. No fanfare, no welcoming ceremony, just a quiet return to Boeing's Seattle factory. This wasn't just a delay, it was a message. China, one of the biggest aviation markets in the world, was walking away from a $28 billion deal. That's not a typo. $28 billion. Hundreds of planes, years of business, all suddenly in jeopardy. So, what happened? Why would a country with 1.4 billion people, skyrocketing demand for air travel, and a huge commercial fleet suddenly stop accepting planes from Boeing, one of the world's most established aircraft makers? Was it about quality, politics, or something deeper? A shift in global power? In this video, we're diving into the bigger picture behind that turning point. We'll unpack the tariff wars, explore Boeing's internal struggles, and meet the Chinese aircraft that's quietly rising to take Boeing's place. Because this isn't just about a canceled order, it's about a battle for control in the skies and a glimpse into the future of global aviation. To understand why China rejected Boeing, we have to go back a few years, to a time when the US and China were locked in an escalating trade war. It all began when President Donald Trump launched a bold, confrontational policy, raised tariffs on imports to protect American industries. The idea was simple: make foreign goods more expensive so US companies could compete better. But in practice, it lit a fire under global trade. First, tariffs hit steel, aluminum, and cars. Then it got more personal, targeting products from specific countries, with China at the top of the list. At its peak, some Chinese goods faced tariffs as high as 245%. That's like trying to sell a $100 item for $345 just to break even. China didn't stay quiet. It fired back, not with speeches, but with tariffs of its own. In April, Chinese authorities raised import duties on U.S. goods from 84% to 125%. That meant any American-made product, from soybeans to airplanes, suddenly became twice as expensive in China overnight. And in the middle of this trade tug-of-war stood Boeing. A company that had once made $10 billion annually from the Chinese market was now tangled in tariffs. Not because of anything it did wrong, but because it was a symbol of American manufacturing, a high-profile target in a larger geopolitical chess game. Suddenly, for Chinese airlines, buying a Boeing jet wasn't just expensive. It was risky. A single trade policy change could cost them millions. Boeing wasn't just an airplane manufacturer anymore. It had become a political pawn. And in China's high-stakes aviation plans, that made it expendable. Boeing didn't enter this crisis from a position of strength. Long before the trade war, the company was already showing cracks. Let's start with its production problems. In 2024, Boeing was hit by a major strike. More than 30,000 workers walked off the job for over 7 weeks. That meant key production lines shut down, deliveries slowed, and customers were left waiting. In the aviation industry, where timing and reliability are everything, this was a red flag. Then came the quality concerns. When the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, audited Boeing's aircraft, the results were shocking. 33 out of 89 audits failed. That's nearly a 40% failure rate, almost unheard of for a company trusted with building the world's safest machines. But the most damaging blow came from something Boeing couldn't undo: the crashes. In 2018 and 2019, 2 Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes, one in Indonesia and one in Ethiopia, crashed within minutes of takeoff, killing hundreds of people. Investigations revealed that a flight control system had been left out of the manuals. Some pilots didn't even know it existed. To make things worse, whistleblowers later claimed Boeing had downplayed the risks. The world reacted fast. China became the first country to ground the 737 MAX, and others followed. The model was banned from flying for 5 years. So when Boeing's aircraft started getting caught in the tariff war, Chinese buyers didn't see a trusted partner. They saw a manufacturer with supply issues, quality problems, and a damaged safety record. Even without the politics, Boeing was bleeding. The tariffs just made the cut deeper. Here's what makes this story even more dramatic. China is one of the most valuable aviation markets on Earth. According to Boeing's own forecast, China will need about 8,830 new aircraft over the next 20 years. That's not just a lot. It's nearly 1/5 of global demand. The reason? China's middle class is growing fast, and so is domestic and international air travel. Between 2025 and 2027 alone, Boeing was expecting to deliver 188 aircraft to Chinese airlines. Multiply that by the average price of a commercial jet, around $150 million, and you get a staggering figure, $28 billion in potential revenue. But here's the problem. When China raised tariffs on U.S. goods to 125%, it basically doubled the cost of those planes. A $150 million aircraft suddenly costs over $330 million, and that's before adding parts, maintenance, and crew training. For any airline, that math doesn't work. Even if Boeing's planes are high quality, the cost-performance ratio collapses. It's like paying double for a phone that doesn't have more features. You just stop buying it. This tariff didn't need to come with a press release or a ban. The message was clear through the numbers. Boeing had priced itself out of the Chinese market. And with $28 billion now in limbo, Boeing wasn't just losing orders. It was losing its future in Asia. There was no big headline, no official press conference. But behind the scenes, something serious was happening. China quietly began freezing Boeing out. It started subtly. In April, a newly completed Boeing 737 MAX, ready for delivery to China, was ordered to fly back to the US. That's not normal. Once a plane is cleared for delivery, it almost never turns around. But this one did. And, it wasn't alone. Around the same time, Chinese customs officials began blocking the import of US-made aircraft equipment and parts. No sweeping public ban, just quiet restrictions, delays, and paperwork dead ends. Slowly, Boeing's supply chain into China started to shut down. Airlines in China stopped placing new orders. Maintenance deals stalled. Even ongoing discussions were put on hold. From the outside, it looked like nothing had happened. But from the inside, the Boeing pipeline was drying up. This wasn't just about tariffs anymore. It was about control. China has been pushing hard for economic self-reliance, not just in semiconductors and cars, but in aviation too. And letting a US company dominate such a strategic sector during a trade war, that didn't fit the plan. So instead of shouting it from the rooftops, China took a different approach. Strategic silence. No big announcement, just a quiet shift toward independence. And in that silence, Boeing's grip on the Chinese market started to slip. While Boeing was struggling to keep its footing, a new competitor was quietly rolling onto the runway, China's own C919. Developed by the Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China, or COMAC, the C919 is the country's first large, domestically produced passenger jet, designed to compete directly with Boeing and Airbus. And it's not just a prototype anymore. It's already flying. As of 2025, 18 C919s have been delivered and put into commercial service. Major Chinese airlines like China Eastern, China Southern, and Air China now fly them on daily routes. Together, these planes have logged over 23,000 safe flight hours, completed more than 9,600 commercial flights, and carried upwards of 1.27 million passengers. That's not a test. That's real-world performance. But what really sets the C919 apart is its adaptability. It's not just a passenger jet. It can be converted into a medical aircraft, with enough space to carry a mobile hospital. Even the Vietnamese Marine Corps has shown interest in using it for military support, saying it's more efficient than traditional landing ships. Now compare that to Boeing. While it's dealing with strikes and delayed deliveries, the C919 is moving fast. In one case, Vietnam received its C919 just 3 months after signing the contract. An almost unheard of speed in the aircraft industry. And interest is spreading. Countries like Brunei, Indonesia, and Brazil are now placing orders. In total, COMAC has already received over 1,000 orders for the C919. It's not just nationalism fueling this rise. The plane is proving itself. And with every delivery, Boeing isn't just facing a competitor, it's facing replacement. There was a time when Boeing dominated Chinese skies. Out of more than 4,000 commercial planes flying in China today, about 1,821 are Boeings. That's over 42% of the fleet. It used to be a symbol of reliability, cutting-edge engineering, and American industrial power. But things have changed. By 2024, Boeing wasn't just facing competition. It was losing ground fast. Airbus, its European rival, steadily gained market share, while Boeing stumbled through supply chain issues, delayed deliveries, and internal chaos. In fact, Boeing delivered fewer aircraft in 2024 than it did during the worst months of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's not a slowdown, that's a stall. At the same time, Boeing's reputation took a beating. The 737 MAX crashes weren't just tragic, they were global news. Investigations revealed flaws in both design and management, lawsuits piled up, confidence fell, airlines started asking the most dangerous question in business: is there a better option? And now there is. The C919 might not match Boeing's scale, yet, but it doesn't need to right now. All it needs to do is prove it's safe, fast, and cheaper to get. And in that window, Boeing risks being seen not as an essential partner, but as a risky bet. Worse still, it's not just China. Airlines around the world are beginning to question Boeing's reliability, consistency, and value. So the real issue may not be that Boeing lost a $28 billion deal. The issue may be that it's losing the world's trust, one order at a time. What happened with Boeing in China isn't just a business dispute, it's a warning shot. Let's break it down. In just a few months, Boeing went from preparing to deliver nearly $28 billion worth of aircraft to facing a near-total freeze. Not because of a technical failure, not because of customer complaints, but because global power dynamics shifted, and Boeing got caught in the middle. On one side, China is asserting control over its critical industries, from semiconductors to steel, and now to airplanes. On the other, Boeing is struggling to maintain global confidence, fighting reputational damage and operational chaos at the worst possible time. The rise of the C919 proves that this isn't just about canceling an American order, it's about building independence. And while the C919 still has ground to cover in scale, quality, and global reach, China's long game is clear: compete, replace, and eventually dominate. By 2027, COMAC plans to produce 150 C919s per year. By 2028, over 80% of its parts will be localized, no longer dependent on foreign suppliers. That's not just ambition, that's a strategy. So here's the real takeaway. This isn't a blip, it's a pivot. A shift in how nations think about supply chains, control, and the tools of global influence. In this story, Boeing didn't just lose a customer. It lost a foothold in a market that might soon be off limits altogether. And the bigger question now, who's next? If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We'll keep diving deep into the global battles shaping tech, trade, and the future of industry.